Hey y'all, good morning. It's Mortality with me, but I've got my Trust Me I'm an Actuary shirt on. And today I want to talk about the Wonder databases from the CDC, specifically their mortality databases. I don't use the other one right now. Um, but let us start with the underlying cause of death. That's the simplest kind of database because there's one underlying cause of death on every death certificate. We will see that there's a multiple cause of death, detailed mortality. That's more complicated to dig into. There's up to 20 causes of death on any death certificate in the United States. There's at least one, the underlying cause of death, but there can be many. I recently did a post. The average number of causes of death on death certificates most recently is over 3. I talked with somebody about this, and this had to do with COVID, of course, and they said the saying is if there's only one cause of death on a death certificate, the doctor was too busy to put all the others. Anyway, we'll talk about that another time. Let's do detailed mortality. And one of the things I need to tell you, this database, okay, has data use restrictions. Yeah, you're not trying to find out who the actual people are. This is just for statistical analysis, okay? So I'm going to agree because any of us can use this. This is freely usable, and I'm going to show you how to do this. So to begin with, the default things that are going to be listed are the number of deaths for whatever grouping you have, the population, and then the crude rate. And that's going to be per 100,000, and that's just going to be deaths divided by population. If it's too small, it will say, well, we'll probably see. So we have location. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm not going to do the age groups right now. Let's just do something simple. Let's just pick year, and we'll get the number of deaths per year. And this runs from 1999 to 2018. I'm going to let all of these other regions, and we'll come down to some of them in a moment. I'm just going to send. And this is the part I will edit out in all the future ones, but you could see a little bit how slow it is. This is a very simple extraction. We get the US population, and so we can see that increasing, so that's the base population, and then we see the number of deaths, and that's increasing, and then we see this crude rate per 100,000. And actually, let me go to my post. Okay. So I actually took the data that came from that specific database extraction. So you can do it yourself and get the same data. I also share my spreadsheet, and you'll get the same numbers. So the number of deaths, you can see it kind of goes up and down here. This is what real data looks like. It's not pretty and smooth. Until you notice from 2009, it kind of, increases fairly steadily year over year. So that's kind of interesting. But then we have this crude rate. And so that's the number of deaths divided by the population times 100,000 to get this rate. And you can see it's less than 1%. So if this were 1,000, would be 1%. So less than 1% of the population usually die. That said, so we see the rate going down. It was at about, 860, and then it comes down to just a little under 800, and it's been increasing up, so 870. This crude rate is driven by the changing age demographics of the population more than anything else. The population is aging, and this has to do with the boomers. The oldest baby boomers in 2009 would have been 63. 63? Yeah, 63. And the youngest boomers, I shouldn't say the youngest boomers, the boomer peak year was 1957. Or 1958, or around there, just like the baby bust trough was around 1975. In any case, you can see this raw death statistic is driven not only by long-term mortality trends, but also that the boomers are getting old, and they are the pig and the python that are driving the mortality trend. Gen X, we're just, a small portion of the population. Anyway, let's get back to this. So we can go back and change what we want to see. I'm going to change it. Actually, I'm not going to do year. I'm just going to do month because this should be interesting. Okay, so you'll see population and crude rate is not applicable, and that's because, well, they could have made it applicable, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, they give us month and year for each of these. I was kind of hoping it would collapse it, that all of the Januaries and all the Februaries, but it did not. That's okay. But you can kind of see for any given year, January and December tend to be the peak months. So it's kind of like a peak and, a trough in the summer, and then it goes up. I'm not going to, well, actually, let's do a chart. Okay, it picked crude rate for some reason, so I'm picking number of deaths. It's not the best, but okay. This is better than a line graph, and I'm not going to explain why right now. Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, so let's just start up here. It's deaths by month, and we start in 1999, and we can see, boof, January 2000, January 2001. 2002 is kind of interesting. If I remember correctly, that's when SARS hit, was in 2002, but I could be misremembering. So 2003, but you can tell when there was a bad flu year, because when there's a bad flu year, let me find, there's a bad flu year, here's a bad flu year, and the thing is, that was a really bad flu year, 2017 to 2018, and so you can see that spike. And you can see, so this is 250,000 deaths in a month. Okay, that's not the average, so you can see it's, somewhere in here. Okay. Let's do this by 5-year age groups. Notice I'm only picking one group at a time. I'm going to show picking 2 groups in a moment. Okay, so notice, okay, we have 50.6 million deaths. That's for the whole period of 1999 to 2018. And this is interesting for the 5-year ones. The max we get is 100, and we can see that 4,500 about for not stated. It's interesting, over age 85, they don't have a population breakout. I'm guessing they don't have it very well. But if you look at the crude rate per 5-year, and I'm going to adjust this in a moment so that we can take a look at how things have changed over time. Infant mortality doesn't look that great. You go up to here, it's almost equivalent to middle-aged people in their 50s. But you can see how rapidly that death rate climbs. They don't give it for over age 85. But you can see there's more people dying or have died over age 85 than 80 to 84. Okay? People are living longer. Most people die over age 75. Okay. But let's do, so I'm going to do 5-year age groups and then years, so we can see how it's changed over the years. So let's just pick one of these groups, and actually, let's see. Let's try 70 to 74. Okay. And remember, over here, this is the crude death rate. What has been going on with the crude death rate for those aged 70 to 74? So it's close to 3,000 here, so that would be 3%. 3% of those aged 70 to 74 dying in any given year. That's what, in 1999, I should say, about 3%. But we can see it's going down, 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 and it's basically, okay, it went up in 2015, just trying to take a look, where did it go up? So it went up in 2015, and it's just been going down. So that's interesting. Let's look at 75 to 79. So here we're seeing 4.6% of those in that age group died in 1999, and that's really come down a lot. So you can see we're bumping up from, this was about 3% up to 4.6%. So you can see the steepness of mortality, as it were. And this has really come down 4.6% down to basically 3.5%. So over 1 percentage point decrease in mortality over this period, almost 20 years. that's pretty good. Now let's look at the older age groups. It's a lot more interesting at older age groups, and they don't do it for over age 85 for this database, but you could develop your own estimates if you wanted to. But 80 to 84, 7.4%, down to 5.8%. That is huge improvement, mortality improvement. Mortality improvement for the elderly has been excellent in the last couple decades. Now, obviously, with COVID, 2020 is going to look awful in the statistics. There's just no way to get around it for older age individuals. They have much higher mortality. But I do want to show you with younger age people, and this is a very concerning trend that we're seeing, is worsening mortality for younger people. So here's age 25 to 29, and we see 90.4. So that's 0.09%. That's very, very low. Obviously, you can just get some noise, and we can see it's growing, and it peaked somewhere like 2006. It came down, so we see it coming down, so that's great, but then it rose again, starting, let's see, it's a little noisy, but we can see it bumped up to, and again, trying to remember, 0.1%. Okay, that is very low still, but growing. 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. And what has been driving these have been, violent deaths, so that's suicide and homicide, but also drug overdoses. That's really one of the things that has been driving younger age mortality. We're seeing it here for 30 to 34-year-olds. It's going at 113, and then it bumps up to 140. Let's see, we're seeing the same pattern here, 35 to 39, this is kind of goes down and goes up. So it looks like starting at age 40, so 40, it's up and then just goes down. No, it went up a little bit, but it's not such a big change. And then again, looking at 45 to 49. So it is kind of interesting. We have old age mortality improvement and younger age not so great. But we can really dig into that if we want to by selecting our cause of death. And I don't want to go on too much longer. You can pick states. I'm sorry, I do enjoy digging into these kind of trends. I know, actually, even among actuaries, I'm considered weird for liking doing this. There's a lot of good news in mortality trends. Yes, there's some bad news too with regards to, say, the drug overdoses and suicide rates. Those are not good. That said, we have seen such improvement in some causes of death. So let me take a look and pick a cause of death. Now here's the list that is like everything, and you can really dig into it. It gets kind of hairy. You can search for the cause that you want, but why don't I just pick an entire category? So that's, if I pick neoplasms, that's cancer. So let me just pick neoplasms. Okay, and so we have the same breakdown. Actually, no, let's keep this. So we're going to have the same results, but it's going to be lower numbers because before what we looked at were total. So how has cancer mortality changed for these different groups? For children, you can see this is single digit. So that's like 0.003%. These are very, very low. So, we're just going to move on to where we see appreciable cancer rates. And this is where we start, is age 50 to 54. So let's see what improvement we've had with cancer mortality. So here we see 169, and it's come down to 118 primo. 55 to 59, that's about 300. So that's 0.3% of people in that age group in 1999 dying from cancer, okay, as their primary cause. And so it's gone down to basically 0.2, not too bad. 60 to 64, now this is about 0.5%, a half of a percent mortality, down to 0.3, so that's good. Let's see, getting to older, 65 to 69. And of course, you can see this. It's hard to get a lot of improvement if the rate is already low. But once we start to get to older ages, cancer mortality, just like other kinds of mortality, really start to rise. So we've got 0.7% down to 0.5%, so 20 basis point change. Now we're getting into appreciable percentages. We're approaching 1%, and we're going to have over 1% in 75 to 79. So about 1% for 70 to 74, down to 0.7%, 30 basis points. That's pretty good. 1.3%. I'm rounding, of course, it's 1.25%. 1.25% down to 0.9%. That's pretty good. Nice. 80 to 84, that's 1.5%, and you can see it went up a little bit, but then came down to 1.3%. Pretty good. And then, of course, they don't show us for age 85 and up, but I am sure yeah, and it's too few people, and this is why they don't do rates up here for 100 plus. There's too few people in these bins. But you can see, to a certain extent, I'm like, oh, we've got all these people age 95 to 99 dying of cancer. This means they lived long enough to be in this age bucket before they died. Just wow. Take a look at this with the deaths. These are cancer deaths. Okay, so that's cancer. Let me see if I can get heart disease, and I will wrap it up with heart disease because I have a really good idea of what that looks like. Okay, so let's see. Immune mechanism. No, that's not what we want. I'm sorry, I don't have my causes of death memorized, so now I have to go find. Maybe it's diseases of the circulatory system. I think that's going to be where heart disease lives. I can open that to get, more detail. And this isn't the best. Let's see, hypertensive, pulmonary heart disease, cerebrovascular, other forms of heart disease. Okay, I'm just going to select them all. Why not? Okay, so that's going to be the same kind of thing. So we just saw it for cancer. For the longest time, heart disease has been the #1 cause of death if we do it high-level categories. Cancer may surpass it soon, but that would be because the mortality rate from heart disease have gone down so low. So these are very, very low numbers for heart disease up until, because I'm waiting to see 100. Yeah, up until age 50. Okay, so we're going to start with age 50. So that's 0.15%. Okay, mortality rate 1 year of people age 50 to 54 down to 0.12%. It's hard to see the improvement. I could do a ratio on this, that, and the other, but it's hard to see the improvement. If we look at the actual numbers of people, you'll see it's about the same number because the population is growing. And you can see it kind of go up and go down, and that's because of the boomers. So we have Gen Xers in this bin in 2018, and there's fewer Gen Xers than there were boomers. So you can kind of see where the boomers pass through this age group when it hits the peak. Okay, so let's really start getting into it. 55 to 59, so 0.26% down to 0.19%, not too shabby. Now it's really looking good. 60 to 64, 0.4% down to essentially 0.3%. Okay, that's 10 basis points, not too bad. 65 to 69, 0.7% down to 0.4%. And this is where we're seeing so much improvement. And again, we can see these numbers going up partly because people are living longer and partly because of the aforementioned boomers. So we have boomers in the 65 to 69 in 2018. Okay. Doop, doop, doop. This is awesome. 70 to 74, 1.1% of those aged 70 to 74 in 1999 dying of heart disease, down to 0.6. That's pretty cool. I mean, we really saw so much improved survivorship for people with heart disease. The surgeries are becoming more effective, and what's really great are the drug interventions are so effective in improving mortality. So here we have something, it's almost 2%. It's 1.9%, okay, 1.9% down to 1%. almost halved the mortality here. Halved. Half the mortality in a 20-year period. That is amazing. 3.4% down to 1.9%. Okay, not exactly half, but that's a huge improvement. And then of course they don't give it for over age 85. But there's so much good news actually in mortality trends for most causes of mortality. So I'm happy, and I hope this maybe doesn't make you happy, but it is good news. So see ya.